Welcome to Drinks in the Library, the only library where drinks aren't just allowed, they are required. I'm your librarian host, Gigi Howard, and each episode I'll be interviewing a guest about a much-loved book that we will be pairing with a drink for you to enjoy along with us or consider for your next book club meetup. As always, stay curious and support your local library. Hello, Libration Nation. This week, we're diving into Be Ready When the Luck Happens by none other than Ina Garten. Our drink this week is a Cosmopolitan. If you have not seen it already, Ina has a hilarious video of her making a giant Cosmo at the beginning of the pandemic. So we knew we had to recreate that. Mair even brought over a giant martini glass, and you can catch the video on my Instagram. A little about Mair. She transitioned into real estate from a Fortune 200 company because she wanted a career where she can make a difference in people's lives. When she isn't showing homes or prepping listings, she's cheering on her teen daughters in their various activities, soccer, volleyball, and basketball, or snuggling with her Havanese, Odie, and of course her husband too. She loves to travel, enjoy great food, and soak in all that life has to offer. For quiet moments, she finds peace sitting on a dock, watching the water glimmer with a good book. A favorite of hers right now is Demon Copperhead. So grab your Cosmo and settle in for a great conversation. And before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you love this podcast, take a moment to review, give us 5-star ratings, and most importantly, tell 2 friends about Drinks in the Library this week. It really helps us grow. All right, now let's get to it. So I'm really excited about the book you picked today, and it is, let me see, what is the title?
Be Ready When the Luck Happens.
Be Ready When the Luck Happens. That's right, and it's by it's Ina Garten's memoirs.
Yes.
So tell us, who were you, where were you when you picked this book up?
I think it was a gift. I was trying to remember this. I believe it was a gift for Christmas because I love her. I do a lot of, I say a lot, I have kids, so not as much as I used to, but bringing people over to the house and feeding them. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite things to do. And I don't care if it's something lavish or something like barbecue and we're hanging by the pool. I just like people to come to me to welcome them and feed them. And I got probably 15 plus years ago, I got her entertaining book. And in the very first, prologue or whatever, she says, the whole purpose of entertaining is not working yourself to death and never seeing your guests. It's feeding them something lovely and being present at the party. Love it. I love that philosophy. And so I really responded to her, not even just her food, but just her philosophy on how to entertain and show love to people through food. And so I got it. And it was very fascinating. I cannot tell you why it hit me so hard. It was just one of those kind of moments that I was sick over the holidays and I was able to focus. But it's not great writing. It's not Annie Lamont. It's not. Sorry, Ina. It's not great writing, but it's very interesting. Her life and the thread throughout was literally, she calls it, it's not all luck, it's be ready. So it's preparation, it's having your eyes open, it's being game for all of the opportunities that come your way. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you do get fortune or luck. And if you aren't ready, you're not prepared, and you can't see it, then you're not going to have that lucky opportunity because you're going to miss it. Yeah. And so that's pretty much through the whole book. It's demonstrated in every story. And I'm not 100% sure that she even saw that until she put it down. I don't know, wasn't present, but there are a bunch of stories, and then you definitely can see that common theme.
Yeah, and so what are, guide us through the main story, or the one that comes to mind when she's talking about being ready when the luck hits her.
So I think the biggest one, it's all along, like how she met Jeffrey,
Oh,
her
yeah,
husband.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, which is hilarious because there's a whole bunch of memes out there on Jeffrey works out of town and then he comes in for his chicken, whatever. But he was at Dartmouth and she came to visit her brother and he saw her from the library or something and it was like kismet. He was smitten, he pursued her, but she was there ready for an opportunity. She had a boyfriend at the time, but she was like wanted something different, was open. So that's the start of it. And then but the biggest pivotal one was she was working in DC. She had a admin job. She did a lot of political administration stuff. She worked on reports behind the scenes and she hated it. She just wasn't fulfilled, whatever. And she opened the New York Times and she saw an ad for the Barefoot Contessa being for sale.
And that's the shop in the Hamptons, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. And so I think that was the biggest opportunity of be ready because she realized that she loved entertaining and that was what she would do on the weekend. She would bring over people and feed them and have a good time. The first party she ever threw, I think, she made everybody omelets. And so all she did was cook the whole time. And everybody was done. And she was like,
omelets take forever.
Yes, omelets do take forever. And they're to order. So I think by the time she got to the table and by the time she got to the party, everybody was done. Everybody was full. Yeah. She missed all the conversation. And so she realized through what we all do, trial and error, that wasn't fun. And she very much is focused on fun. What is fun for me? Like what I enjoy, what makes me feel good. And so anyway, so all of this backstory that she'd been aware of, and she said, oh, I think this would be an interesting opportunity. So they drove up, they looked at it. They had the worst night stay ever. Like nothing said, you should do this. Like the shop was completely empty when they were in there. Look, wasn't going to do any business at all. And she was like, oh, what the hell? And they made a lowball offer. She didn't think it was going to get accepted. And they called her back and they said, congratulations, I accept your offer. Yeah. And then she was like, what? So I think that was the biggest of just be ready when the luck happens.
And I wanted to ask you, like that concept, I've heard that before as well. Make your own luck, prepare for what you don't know what's going to happen in that example that she had. And I wonder, have you had similar experiences or did that speak to you personally?
I think that's why the book resonated.
Okay.
Because normally when I read a book, I'm like, oh, I'm a writer too. And I'm like, the turns of phrase. Did you just hear how that punched? I'll read things out loud to my husband. I'm like, just listen to this poetry. It's phenomenal. And that was not here. So it wasn't the words. It was the meaning. And I think that resonates to me personally because we have opportunities all the time. And it all depends on how you're prepared for it and how fearless you can be, and then to see it and to be willing to go for it. Yeah. And it happens all the time. Even this, you put a little announcement out there, and I'm like, sure, okay. Yeah. Sure. And you could say this is fortuitous, this is a little lucky, this is something that not everybody gets to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And I love that. And I was like, I need guests to come on this year in person if you're local. And you reached out.
And I think I had just finished this book.
Uh-huh.
And had I dwelled on it like for any particular time, I would have said, oh, I may have said something by Annie Lamott or whatever. Olive Kitteridge is one of my favorites too. But I had just finished this and I thought that, and it was probably more poignant too because it was literally written by her.
No ghostwriter.
No. And at the end, she refused their ghostwriter and said that nobody is more equipped to write the story than she was. I do think that in that like rawness, there was the reality, and that made it hit home a little bit harder. Because I do think that again, there are opportunities all over the place.
Yeah.
And we have to be ready to see them and scared but fearless enough to accept it and just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Life is short.
I'm actually on my third career.
Oh, really?
Because yes. So I got started. I was a writer and an editor.
Okay.
But I was in print and the online world happened.
Yeah.
And so I was working for a Slick magazine, and then I decided, oh no, I want to go online because magazines, it's 2-3 months out.
Right.
So by the time the magazine hits the stands, everybody's like, oh, I like your article. And I'm like, what was that issue again? Because I know it's Christmas, but I'm like working on springs. And then the online is instant. Like you pushed the publish and it was right there. And that was something very gratifying. So I moved into the online space and did a lot of online marketing and management.
Cool.
Ended up at Capital One doing marketing. And now I'm in real estate. So it's just every time there was a pivot moment, I was like, yeah, let's do that. That feels right. Let's go. I'm prepared enough so that I know I'm capable of learning new things. I don't know what this world is, but that's okay. Like I'm capable of learning new things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think everything, you have core competencies that follow whatever you do.
Yeah.
So you were a librarian.
Yeah.
Not a podcaster by nature. You didn't start on NPR? No. But you have some core competencies that you can learn new things and you're not afraid of technology.
Yeah, mostly.
Can't be, well, right. So it's that common thread can carry you that you could do whatever.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm such like a quotes person and I'm going to botch this because I'm not going to look it up, but it reminds me, I think it's Henry David Thoreau. It's like, what lies before us and what lies behind us is like nothing to compare to what lies within us.
Ooh, that's a good one. I love little pithy quotes too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think sometimes we underestimate who we actually are and that you can do things like what you're talking about with your career and with Ina Garten. And then like you said, with me as well, it's like you can do hard things and you can figure out something new and you can be a different kind of person because of who you are inside already.
And we're lucky because there are some parts of the country or some parts of the world, not country, where if you were born into I'm going to say welding family, whatever, throw it out there, but that's who you are.
Yeah.
That's who your family is. That's who you're going to become. There's no rising above your status. There's this.
Yeah.
In America, we can reinvent ourselves.
Yeah.
We can. We are known for what we are doing right now. We are not known for what we were doing 20 years ago. Thank goodness. Well, I don't know 20 years ago, but 40 years ago, girl was wild. I think it's awesome that we get a chance to birth.
Yeah.
When we feel like we've peaked out or the road was going in a direction that we weren't comfortable with, we could just take a right.
Yeah, 100%. We could talk about this for a very long time because I'm like, yes, that is what my feeling is on this. Yeah. And you are having a sip of our cocktail.
Oh,
so
I am. It is not the size of Ina Garten's big Cosmo meme, sadly, on this crappy, rainy Saturday, but
yeah, it was so funny because you said you wanted to do this, and I'm just like, oh, Ina Garten, I'm sure she has like cool cocktails, and I just Googled Ina Garten cocktail, and and I sent it to you, and it's her. It's like the very beginning of the pandemic, and it is hilarious. I'm gonna put a link in it to this show, but if you're listening to this, go stop the podcast and go watch her making like a gallon of Cosmopolitan. It
is literally like the glass, which I brought. Yeah. Gotta have a prop. But the glass will hold like a whole bottle of vodka for the Cosmo.
Yeah.
And the way it happened, she talked about it in the book. And I do remember COVID. How can we all forget that, right? Everybody was trapped. And there were people who came to our living room doing their HGTV shows. Ina Garten was obviously one of them, but had to figure out a different way to do it.
Yeah.
So they started doing little shorts which now is everywhere.
Yeah.
Jennifer Garner she's cooking like eggs every morning in my Instagram feed. Like Jennifer Garner's got her own thing too. But so Ina Garten just started recording with her phone, and she was trying to figure out things to do. And she had this joke gift that somebody had given to her that she actually kept, was this big pitcher, big shaker, and bottle of vodka size glass. And she was like, oh my God. And I do love a cocktail hour. She doesn't drink a lot, but she loves the process of a cocktail hour. So she's like, we're going to do this thing. And she just, hair undone. I don't think she had any makeup. She was as real and as pandemic as you get. And she just dump and enjoy. Cocktail hour can happen anyway. And it's really funny. The thing blew up. I blew up. I do remember that. I'm like, dang, even Ina Garten's lost her mind, you know? But yeah, she did talk about it in the book. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I thought that was so telling about her, because be honest, before preparing for this episode, I wasn't super familiar with her. And so I always heard like Barefoot Contessa, and I was like, oh, she sounds really like fancy. And And then I see her like doing this bit with a giant cocktail, and I'm like, oh, she's funny.
Yes. And I do like myself some cooking shows. I think I don't watch TV as much as I used to when I had little ones where you had breaks.
Yeah.
But between the two, so I was not a let's watch Martha Stewart cook. I was more like let's watch Ina Garten cook. And there was another one, Nigella.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where actually Ina got her inspiration, was from Nigella Lawson. I think that's her last name. But I used to love watching her because it was like ASMR before there was ASMR. It was just so sensual the way she cooks.
Yeah.
And Ina Garten wanted to be simple like that. She didn't want to wear shoes if she didn't want to. But when she first got started, it was Martha Stewart said, you should be on your cooking show. You're going to be on my channel. Like, my team is going to come. And it was a circus. And it was overwhelming her. And I think they shot a couple of episodes. It's in the book, too. Like, the whole crew was using her, like, Hampton house bathroom and overrun the septic system. Like, it was literally, if I can say it, a shit show. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I'm done. So we're going to do it my way. We're going to do no more than, she said that there was like 30 or some people there, maybe 50. I don't know. It was a ton. It's the little Hamptons house. Like, she's added on to it, but she was like, no, we're going to do this differently. Martha, I appreciate you, but we're not doing that. So she decided to really control how she wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
Yeah. And I was listening to her talking on NPR about that situation. And basically they wanted her to do it the same way Martha had always done it. And Martha always has her ingredients pre-measured. And Ina Garten was like, I don't. And that's not the way that people cook normally. And I thought so often in life we think you have to do it a certain way, or that the way that you do it, I know this is personal for me, the way that I'm doing it is wrong, because that's not the way the professionals do it. And not being willing to speak up and be yourself. But I thought that was a great lesson of, hey, the way you do it is cool and different, and that's what makes it special.
I thought that was really fearless, because who is she compared to Martha Stewart, who already had a proven track record? And she's coming in saying, no, now I know that you were bringing this idea to me, and this is the way you say we should do it, but we're not going to do it this way.
Yeah.
And she's stuck by her ground, even though there were higher ups, executives saying, this is not going to work. Nobody wants to see this.
Yeah.
And I hope she is human enough to like been sitting there chewing her nail in her bed going, maybe this is wrong. Like, am I wrong?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I would be like, dang, nobody else thinks this idea is good. I guess it's not. I think that was fearless to say, no, I'm right. Just try it. And I think that's really brave. And I think we all need a little more of that.
Yeah.
When we have our own unique ideas, thoughts, way we sing, we should be confident in that and not care too much about the noise outside.
Yeah. 100%. I love that. Thank you. Agreed.
I need that tattooed somewhere.
Yes.
Prominent. Palm of my hand, maybe somewhere prominent.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. And so I'm looking at your copy.
Yeah.
You've got some notes in there. Are there things that you wanted to bring up or we should hop on?
It was so funny because I read this in December and we booked this in December and it's February.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, snap. What was this book about again?
And that's a common, I see that all the time on Bookstagram. It was like, I love this book. I could not tell you what it was about.
So some of it was just me going through. This is preparing for a quiz, right? Like me going through in case you were going to ask me stuff. The one thing, I think that there's a few interesting things in this book. One of them is that, and I thought this was just funny. I had zero clue, but she wanted to do two things. Two things made her happy. She either wanted to be a real estate agent or she wanted to be some sort of cook, some sort of entertainer of that nature. And those are the two things that I've always enjoyed.
Yeah.
Is real estate, which I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, I've always wanted to own a restaurant. And like just a fun sandwich restaurant. It would kill me. Her life it was rough, rough. To make that successful, she worked all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm too old for that. That dream has got to squash. I just thought that was really interesting with the two things that she really enjoyed. And it wasn't until later that she went into entertaining for people.
Yeah.
But so I think I downloaded that one thing, or I downloaded it. I put a little sticky note. This is the
there's pictures.
analog version of downloading as a sticky note.
I didn't know that she had so many pictures. That's really cool. I'm going to have to flip through that.
Yeah.
Of her life and
yeah.
And I know she talks about like her childhood as
yes.
well.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
It was not good. It was during, I think, late 50s, early 60s. She was a woman.
Yep.
So we're just going to drop that one there.
That's a thing.
In bold type and all caps. So it wasn't really valued for anything aspirational. They were very, very strict as far as got everything. Yeah. Like her mom only cooked bland foods, like eat to live kind of thing. And that's probably, Anna was very rebellious. She was very individualistic. And one of the reasons I would say, if I was a therapist, that she went into food is because she didn't get any of it. She always knew that it was better than what she was getting. Like her mom would cook boiled chicken and like always like vegetables and
like canned vegetables.
Yes. Yeah. Not even, she put that in the book too. Not even frozen, folks. She
was talking about it. Yeah. She's definitely, like you said, there's some stuff to unpack there.
Yeah. Yes. And interestingly, her dad, she mentioned that briefly, her dad was very strict as well with a really nasty temper and pretty abusive. I don't know if he did a lot of screaming and yelling and belittling for the most part. And she's very effervescent, I would say. Yeah. And it was not a life for somebody effervescent.
Yeah.
And so I think she struggled with that a lot. She really was, her dad was very, I don't know if entrepreneurial was the right word, but driven, ambitious. And he was a surgeon, but he was a surgeon, like she even said in there, very much like her, with his own way of interacting with his patients. He had a very vibrant waiting room that wasn't like the hospital green, sterile. It was like bold and live with color. And he spent all his time talking and connecting with his patients versus the next type of assembly line that you think of with most doctors. And so he did things differently as well.
Yeah.
And also owned apartment buildings. So there have always been this nuggets of real estate, probably interesting because your dad was in it and you guys would talk about it. And then he obviously had his own way of thinking on how to do things.
Yeah.
As does she.
Yeah.
And was confident in it. But the fact that they always tried to damper her growing up.
Yeah.
And, block out her light.
I don't think they saw it as a value.
As what's interesting is there's just a lot of real things in it. And what I don't like about self-help books is I feel like they're preachy.
Yeah.
And usually they have one or two main points.
Yeah.
Which are outlined in the beginning.
And this is what we're going to talk about.
And then re-outlined and outlined again and again and again. And they're going to say it again. Really, this could be a pamphlet. So thank you. But I felt this would be my kind of self-help book. It's a memoir. It's whatever. And sometimes it could be fiction, but there's so much truth in it that you can pull from it if you're connecting the dots.
Yeah.
I think that hit me more than some other people loves, like self-help books and stuff. And I like the idea of them, but this I actually got something from, which is so funny.
Yeah.
Look at you. Look at you, Barefoot Contessa.
Guiding us all with her story.
Yeah.
And her fearlessness and triumphs and everything. And I guess you're kind of hitting on it too, but I always ask what's the vibe of the storytelling? Like, I guess she has like funny little jokes, or is she... It's not serious, I'm guessing.
She's got a lot of little anecdotes in there. So if somebody was sitting around the dinner table over the course of a year and they were like, "Oh my God, tell me about the time that's kind of what it is."
Okay.
There are a bunch of memories that are woven together. I think the coolest thing, and you couldn't do this today, but they had 4 months, I think, before Jeffrey started grad school and after he left the service, where they had nothing to do. So they decided to go to Europe and literally backpack around Europe. And there was a book at that time, Europe on $5 a day. Again, why I said you couldn't do that, because I think it's like a couple euros just to go to the public bathroom. So anyway, you're done. Yeah. But and it was just amazing. They camped. Her house in the Hamptons is exquisite. They have a Paris flat. They lead a lavish lifestyle. And yet 30 years before that, they could barely live on $5 a day, camping, roughing it around Europe. So that was great. That was probably the longest story in there. I think it was like its own little chapter, but that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, to see her journey from that to her flat in Paris, which that's the dream, right?
Yeah. I do think that, there were some things unsaid. I think she came from money. Jeffrey's dad was a colonel in the military. So there was money on both sides. And they always said that they didn't have any money. Like early on, they didn't have any money. But I think they didn't have any money because they wanted to be independent. But there was always a net.
Yes.
In case, which is a very nice thing to have.
Yeah, of course. And I think, because I was thinking about that too a little bit. Make your own luck is different from saying when you have a net versus when you don't have a net. I think there's the flip side of it too, which I think is the point that she's trying to make, is that she still could have chosen not to. She could have chosen the safe of sticking with that government job, and she chose to use her resources and her privilege and live her dream regardless. And that still has a lot of merit, because there's a lot of us that don't do that.
And I think some of it, we don't do it because we think about the worst case scenarios. In the book, it was a worst case scenario. She bought the Barefoot Contessa and she had to work, I would say, 21 hours a day.
Yeah. I think there's a story where she sleeps on a shelf or something.
She sleeps in the Barefoot, and Jeffrey's not with her. So all the time. And this wouldn't be for me because my husband is like my best friend, and I'm very emotional and he is very stoic. And if I don't have his grounding beside me, sometimes girlfriend might lose it. So it would not work for me.
Yeah.
He went and did his thing, and he was advancing his career, and he was in DC, and then he was in Boston, and he was advancing his career and changing it, whatever. And she was doing the Barefoot Contessa. And so she had the freedom. They don't have any kids. She had the freedom and the luxury to spend 21 hours doing it. But also the persistence, because at some point people are like, dang it. Like, this was the worst case scenario that I was afraid of. This is a lot of work that I'm not prepared for and now have to do myself. So she definitely made it work. She didn't just come in and hands off and wave people around and tell them to do their thing. And
You're right. She put her heart and soul
she
into
did.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, because Jeffrey is such, even I know about Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm
Yeah.
not a huge, I haven't done a whole lot of watching her show and things. What is his story in all of this?
His story is that she clearly adores him. She finds that he's very supportive. He also is very grounded.
Like your husband.
Yes. And he gets a lot of satisfaction from doing his work as well. I think but he's always just been a very supportive best friend. But also they almost divorced.
I heard she spoke on this. I heard a little bit about it. Yeah. So she thought about, I think they separated for a minute.
Yeah, and I think it was over a year.
Oh, okay.
And I think this has got to be something that happens because she was working so much. I think this was the catalyst. She was working a lot. He would come up to the Hamptons on the weekends. And the weekends are when it gets really busy. And she couldn't see him on weekends.
Right.
Girlfriend was leading like a realtor life. Nope. Weekends, if you're in the people business, the weekends are your business.
Right.
Because that's when people have time off. So she couldn't spend any time with him. And he was getting frustrated. And she was getting frustrated that he was frustrated. She was trying to make this thing work. And she had her own life when he wasn't there. And so I think she started to question their connection, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
She had a lot of good friends in the Hamptons that she would go, when things were a little bit slower, Monday, Tuesday, whatever that was, and just go and hang out. And I think she was they've always led a little bit separate lives, but then were able to connect. And I think that was just a period of time where they couldn't. Their connection was a little broken.
Yeah. And they were able to come back to it. And I did hear her say that at the time, because it was like the 70s, right? 80s maybe, and that men had their role and women had their role. Yes. And she basically, by becoming a businesswoman, was breaking out of her role. And so then they had to renegotiate.
Yep, that's exactly right. Flashback. Just totally remember that. Yes, because he had these expectations, also a byproduct of the 60s.
Yeah.
And he had these expectations. And she said, no, you're a successful person in business. I am too. We need to change we need to bust out of these colloquial norms and we need to write our own rules.
Yeah.
And it was weird to him at first, I think, is what it was. And I don't think he resisted or anything. I think he was like, what? And I hear you.
Yeah.
But I can't, my actions don't emulate my understanding. and then I think that's when it just worked out and they realized that there was no box that they fit in. They're just going to have to fit. They're going to have to make their own shape.
And I think for a different reason, I've been thinking a lot of the women who were doing that at the time and how expectations were so different. And I think about like you and I today, where we're allowed to go and try new things and be things. And it's not crazy for us to, not be expected to work and be homemakers. And I'm just really grateful for the women that were doing this at the time and that they paved the way for us now, including Ina Garten. So
she told a story. They were in D.C. and they were trying to get a mortgage. They saw this beautiful old house. And again, she's always liked real estate and she's liked the opportunities that real estate can present. So you get a good deal and you fix it up. And so it was a pricey house, but they both had really good jobs. So they went into a bank and they were both, again, making really nice salaries, easily able to afford it. And they got rejected. And the banker said, he doesn't make enough money. And they were like, no, that's okay. It's the two of us together. So the two of us together make plenty of money.
yeah.
And he literally looked at her and said, I don't count you. You're a woman. You're just going to quit and have babies, so we can't count your salary.
Oh my gosh.
And that wasn't just one bank. That was multiples.
Oh my gosh.
And then she also said something about a pregnancy note, that some banks would make you sign a pregnancy note promising not to get pregnant and quit your job. And they would include you on a mortgage. And that was like the very proactive lenders.
Okay.
Can you imagine?
No.
I deal with that all the time. If I heard a lender say, oh, but it's a woman, I think I would
God.
scream.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't even. I bought a house all by myself. In fact, I didn't think about this until just now. All but 3 of my deals last year were funded by the women.
Really? How far we've come.
Yes.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yeah. Nobody had to write a letter.
Yeah.
Not that I know of anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't have to include that one in the file.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think sometimes, like I said, for another totally different reason, I've been thinking about this a lot. And I think a lot of times we're like, oh, we don't think about what women at that time had to deal with. And I think I'm having gratitude towards the people that put up with shitty stuff like that.
Yeah. My daughter's getting ready to look at colleges. And in the book, she said that it was the 60s and women were expected to go to college, but it wasn't the end goal of a degree or a job. It was to meet a college level man. It was to meet an educated guy.
Uh-huh.
That's why you went to college.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, that's not actually on my daughter Chloe's list of schools that she's looking at.
Sure.
She's not looking for the most eligible bachelors.
Yeah.
No. She's looking for good degrees in science so she could be a dentist.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Oh, dentist.
A dentist. Yep. She wants to help people. She wants to be in healthcare. She wants the minimum amount of blood.
Okay. So dentistry it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, good. Well, we're looking for great things from Chloe. Bring in that paper, girl.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Oh, my gosh. So I wanted, just real quick, is there anything else in the story that we haven't brought up or that you wanted, spoke to you that you wanted to cover?
No, I think that just the biggest thing is what we talked about almost like at the very beginning, is that the opportunities are around us all the time. And we just have to be in the mindset and fearless enough to take them.
Yeah. I love that. Who would you recommend this book to?
People who like the idea, people who like the idea of a self-help book, but don't want to be preached to.
Okay.
Want a good story.
Okay.
Because I think there's a bunch of different things that resonate in here.
Yeah.
But nobody's preaching to you. She's just telling you stories.
Yeah.
She's just telling you stories of her life.
Yeah.
And we all have it. We sit around at the table. When we do big holiday gatherings or birthday gatherings or something, we're always talking about memories of the person. So if it's your birthday, then it'd be like, oh, tell us stories about Gigi that you know. And at some points, they're all funny or embarrassing, whatever. But they're moments that happened that was impactful and somebody else remembered them and weave them all together. And you probably have a little picture of Gigi.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what it is. It's just all of these little memories that just tell a picture of Ina Garten.
Yeah.
And if you like her, you're going to love the book.
There you go.
Yeah, because it's her.
Yeah.
And I think she says multiple times, how easy was that? And I'm like, lady, okay, it was easy. I got it.
Yeah. I did want to give you a chance to shine a spotlight on anything you've got going on and anything we can point our listeners to.
I want to just give a shout out to all the people right now who work for the government or get some sort of federal benefits. They are so stressed right now. I've heard from so many people this week who are planning on listing or making a move, and they're like, my life is a little bit in chaos.
Yeah.
And I think this parlays into it a little bit. Okay, let's see beyond today. So today might be a little rocky.
Yeah.
But there's a long game. Everything will be okay. So I think that's my shot. That's very close to my heart this week.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we're here in Richmond, so we're very close to DC. Yeah, so it's, I think 40,000 people or something have quit.
Yes. And if some people were ready for a change, some people couldn't afford the change.
Yeah.
And not exactly fortune in this case, misfortune. So just trying to see through the current angst.
Yeah.
Take a pause, process, and then find a new light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 100%. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. I do want to acknowledge the fact that I cannot get my cat to shut up. So thank you for working through that.
She is a huge Ina Garten fan. She totally believes in being at the party, not working the party.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, thank you again. It was a lot of fun. Oh my goodness. Yay. Thank you for spending some time with me and my guest for an episode of Drinks in the Library. For more information about the show, you can find us on Instagram at Drinks in the Library, on the World Wide Web, drinksinthelibrary.com, or shoot me an email at drinkspod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers.